make us who we are. So I'll dream until I make it real, and all I see is.
Happy Monday to all. We are here once again. Welcome to Mentorship Mondays with Michelle and Maren. Hi, Maren. It's so good to see you.
Let me tell you what, you look really good.
Well,
You
thank
look
you.
happy, peppy, not sick. You're looking really good.
Well, thank you. And actually, I feel a lot better. I'll tell you, last week, so when we had our last episode, as we know, I was just coming out of COVID, and it ran through my whole family. So, if you're just catching this episode and didn't see the last one, check it out so you can hear my whole story there. But I really, really, even after our episode of talking, I was like, I'm really ready to really get back to the basics and to really get ready for this new chapter of my life, which we're all experiencing a new chapter in one way or another.
Mhm.
And I'm making a lot of changes as well I was put on a lot of medications through my cancer treatment, and I've pretty much got myself off of everything there. And not to say there's anything wrong, just so anyone hearing this, nothing wrong with medications. It's, something that may work for us at one time in our life. We
Mhm.
change and we vibrationally shift, and it's no longer good for us or working for us. So I've done a lot of that assessment, and I've done it in many different cycles. So this one's a big one because there's a couple medications that are not easy to come off of. And so I'm working through that as well. Long story short, I incorporated two things. I incorporated, of course, the grounding. And I have done that religiously, not only myself, but my family, my husband, my mother, that we are out and walking outside with bare feet more than, like, consciously more than what we would have. And I found
Mary.
myself desiring it. I found myself really
Yes.
like drawn to it. And that I thought of you, Maren, when you were talking about how you would go out and water your garden in bare feet. So when I go out at night to put some water on, I'm like, oh, why would I wear shoes? Like, why? I want
Yep.
to feel all of this. And, my husband and I were talking about it, and he was saying that he had always felt, even though he didn't really, wasn't going through the metaphysical understanding or the energy understanding, but he always knew that putting his feet on the ground or laying on the ground felt good. It was doing
Yeah.
something for him, but he never understood. So yes, we did watch that movie or
Oh,
documentary.
good.
Yeah, we
Good.
watched it.
Wasn't
I
it
took lots of
good?
notes. Yes. Yes, it was very
Yeah.
good. And I passed that along to my parents because with
Good.
my father being in the wheelchair, I talked to him and
Yeah.
explained to him about the rubber wheels and all of these things. So we've got grounding
Yeah.
mats coming for my parents and everything too. So thank you. And thank you to
Yes, you
Spirit,
are
because
welcome.
that
I have
that
to tell
really, really
you,
helped.
yes, so we have made huge changes too. So like last night we were all outside enjoying the nice night, and the boys didn't have shoes on. And then I took my shoes off and we were kind of playing like tag in the backyard. And my husband comes out and he's wearing these like rubber croc type shoes. And I was like, "You're not allowed to play with us unless you take those off." And so he took them off and we all played for like an hour tag in our
That's
backyard. And then
awesome.
we just came in and he's a doer and the clean guy. So he like had a little soapy towel for all of us and we just wiped our feet off when we came back in. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, how awesome that we got a full
Yes.
hour playing outside with our shoes off." It was just
That's
so
that's huge.
magical.
It
Yeah.
really is. And like the reminder for me is just that those little things, like what a simple little thing to do that we might dismiss and say,
Mhm.
what would this actually do for me? What would standing out
Mhm.
in the grass for 2 minutes? That seems silly. That seems, because there's lots of people that do believe that. But,
Mhm.
when you do it and you commit to doing it, it makes such a world of difference. And it's free. It's just our effort and our belief and allowing nature to give
Mhm.
us what we need, because the earth knows
Mhm.
exactly what to do. Our bodies know naturally what to do. And like Eric always said to me, we don't need to tell the sun to come up. We don't have to
Yeah.
tell the sun what to do. We don't tell the sun when it's time to come down. It happens. And that's the way our
Mhm.
bodies and the earth are. It happens. So something else that I committed to is juicing in the morning. Now, I can't remember if I said this or not before, but I don't have a juicer. So I was like, oh, well, yeah, I can't really do that. I used to do smoothies more, and I'd always put the roughage in it. And I was like, oh, I don't really like that so much. And so I would kind of have these excuses. So I go on little spurts of it here and there.
Uh,
Well, I really was like, I'm really wanting to do some celery juicing. And just to let you guys all know, like, I am uh, working through old habits of all or nothing. Okay. So I would always be all gung ho and go all into it. And if I couldn't go all into it, then I just wouldn't do it. Right. So for me, one of my practices has been, and I've done this for a long time, is making these little changes,
yes.
allowing myself to start wherever I'm at.
Mhm.
And no matter what that is, if I can, so for example, if I can go outside and stand for 20 seconds, then that's what I'll do. But so for me, it was, what can I do for myself in the morning to help set my days up better? So what can I do to energize myself? And the celery juicing is what came through, and that's what I felt drawn to. So what I did was I was like, well, I've got a bullet. I've got all of these, like I have everything here that I can do it with. I don't need to have the excuse that I need to have a fancy machine or to have this or
Yeah.
have that. I can grind up the celery. I can take the cheesecloth and the strainer and I can put it in my cup and drink it, which is exactly what I've done. Now, does it take a few extra steps to do that? Yes. But I also don't have a juicer to pull all apart and clean either. So,
I
it
know, it's
really,
kinda nice.
right. And so I'm like, well, really, that is, so I'm extending it into next week. I'm going to be doing the detox smoothies. So I'm going to start moving
Okay.
into that. But I've really noticed, and yes, Eric's just saying, and it's belief too, because I know that it works. I believe it. I know that it works, but it's getting me to do it. It's putting it into my own habits and structures. And
Yeah.
the biggest thing is to you guys is, you know, I think I've said this to you, Maren, is that we're all on this journey and there is no such thing as perfection. And the biggest thing that is so important to me is showing people that our spiritual journey is not this, let's get to this place of, like I do everything right and I'm so light and I eat all the right foods and I do this. No, it's about, what does my body need? Where am I right now? And how can I
Yeah.
accept myself right now? And what can I do to make myself feel better from the inside out, whether that's our emotions or our mental state, our belief, whatever that
Mhm.
is. Because when we go through that process of just ticking off those boxes one at a time, then it starts to build and build. And then we have more energy to do more. Then we feel more motivated. And that really has been an ongoing process in so many different layers of my mental, emotional, physical. So I'm very, I feel very blessed to be able to share that with people. But I
Yeah.
also want to show people that we can do anything with what we have. I call it the
Yes.
MacGyver, right? I can MacGyver
Yeah.
anything and I can make it
Well,
work.
I just love it because you're right. Yeah, you don't need every contraption. And honestly, sometimes it's more work to have the big contraption. Like I just love that you have your little cheesecloth. And then
Yes.
second, I like that you made the adjustment. So I do the fruit smoothie juices in the summer. And then I kind of trail off because I'm kind of cold natured by heart
Yeah.
so it's like to have then the fruit juice in the cold weather, it's like,
Yeah.
but or not
Yeah.
juice, but smoothie, the
Yeah.
ice smoothie. So,
Yeah.
but to have like a healthy juice that's room temperature, like, I could do that.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you're right. It is about consistency, not intensity. They say that as long as you do something consistently, then you can increase your intensity. but it's
Yes,
very hard to do something with a high intensity consistently.
that's right.
So I love that you're doing that and following that philosophy.
Yeah.
And you're inspiring me. Now I want to go out and do this.
Well, that's the whole idea, is for us to inspire each other. And what's taking my mind too is just in the idea of mediumship. When I started doing mediumship publicly and was starting to go on social media, I didn't have any space. Like, I literally started when I was still sick in bed. And if you look at my early videos on channeling Eric, I was in my bedroom, sitting on my bed, and I started seeing clients from the corner of my bedroom, and all I had was a MacGyvered stand, a bunch of books, and my phone. That's all I had, because Eric told me it's all in here. It's not about all
Yeah.
of this. It's
Yeah.
all in here. You don't need to have, he says, you will have a space. You will have your desk. You will have all those things. But I moved from that space when I got busier. Then I had to make a space in the laundry room, because that's the only space we had until we finished our basement. And then I was able to move into another space in the basement until my space was being finished. And then I got the desk that I wanted. But do you see, it's all the same, whether it is something that we're, with mediumship, or our diet, or a relationship. It's all about finding what you need, obtaining it, recognizing it, and having gratitude for it in wherever we are, because the continuation of
Yeah.
doing that will build. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Oh, I
So
love
that's
that.
my 2 cents worth from my week, but I do feel really good. I feel a lot better. And I'm
Good.
starting to, anybody who missed sessions while I was sick, I'm going to start rescheduling this week. So if you're watching this and you need a session and you haven't heard from me, please reach out. And I'm doing my best to get everybody in a timely fashion, while still honoring my time. Is That's one thing that Eric said to me, is make sure that you don't overwhelm yourself.
Yes,
Don't.
that's how you got into this predicament in the first place.
Exactly,
So,
exactly. So the
yeah.
patience of everybody else is so, I'm very, very grateful, because I have had nothing but amazing people. So
Oh, that's great.
very patient and amazing. So thank you.
That's great.
So
Love it.
what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I have a story about, like, I'm just confused and I need your insight on this. So, um, I have a cousin,
Mhm.
and about a year ago, he came to me saying he was looking for a new job, and if I could, like, what do I see for him? Like, can I, help him out um, with my abilities and see what I get? And so I got, let's see, when I first talked to him, I kind of felt like it was going to be a job he'd already looked at. And so it would be something that was coming back to him. And then I saw I saw baby Jesus. And this was, like, I guess it wouldn't be a year ago. This was, like, right after Christmas. So I'm like, I
Okay.
don't think it's going to be a year. Like, I don't know why I'm seeing it was like Jesus in the manger, and like the grass was underneath them, and like you could see like Mary and Joseph. I could tell it was like a little manger scene. And I was like, I don't know, but that's what I see. And then we kind of left it. And then one random day, like, I'll just like get information randomly. And I was like brushing my teeth, and I heard someone say, it's going to be August. August is going to be really good. It's going to be August. So I called him up and I was like, it's going to be August. Like, I really feel so
Mhm.
good about August.
Mhm.
And I kind of left it, and we kind of went about our um, business, didn't really talk to him much. And then, sure enough, he calls me up this month and says, guess what? I got a job interview, and it's August, and it's a job that I've looked at before. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's a job you've looked at before. It's August. I have no idea where baby Jesus fits in there, but like, great. I'm really happy
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then he was going to have the interview that Friday, and then that month, and when he had that interview, they said he was going to find out like early the next week. Well, I went to one of the schools that I work at as a Catholic school, and I went to that school for the very first time that Monday, and went to the bathroom. And in the bathroom in the teacher's lounge, there's like a little shelf, and it used to have a picture of Jesus. And I don't know, maybe the teachers got a little nervous that Jesus was watching them go to the bathroom or something. So this year, it's baby Jesus in the manger.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I go to the bathroom and I'm like, oh, it's baby Jesus. Oh
It's
my
the
gosh,
sign.
that was
Yeah.
my other sign.
Uh-huh.
And so I called him up and I was like, hey, did you hear anything? Like, I think, you're going to get it soon. And he hadn't heard anything. I was like, okay, I've like got really good feelings because I just saw baby Jesus. And he was like, what was baby Jesus? Like he didn't even remember that one. And then later that week, he calls me up and he said he didn't get the job. And I was like, wait, I don't understand. All the signs were there. You asked the question. I saw the signs and they all manifested, and there's no job. So I felt a lot of denial, right? Like this can't be, this can't be. So then I said a prayer to my spirit guide. I said, if this is a job that is like there's been a mistake and it's going to come back to him, show me a boomerang. And if this is a job where we're done and we need to move on, show me a kangaroo. And you need to show me in 24 hours. So the next day, it's almost been 24 hours. I'm outside in the backyard playing with my kids, I was playing soccer, and I'm kind of having this like internal dialogue in my head as I'm playing, like, why have you not given me the sign yet? Like I asked for this sign. I have seen nothing, no animals, no Australian references, like nothing. Like when am I going to get this sign? And I kind of heard like, dude, you asked for some pretty specific signage. It's going to take me a minute to like set it up and tee it up for you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, we're in the backyard. We have this like walking path along our backyard. And every time we're in the backyard, we have this one neighbor who always sees us and always comes out to talk to us whenever we're in our backyard. I mean, like it is without fail. So he comes to the little back walking thing. And I'm like, hey, how are you? And he's like, I'm good. I'm like, okay, I'm just playing soccer with my kids. Got games tomorrow. And he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like expecting him at this point to like keep on walking. And he's just sitting there or standing there. And I'm like, okay, I guess I got to make conversation. So I was like, what are you doing this weekend? And he said, oh, I'm going to the zoo. And I go, oh, well, I hope you got to go check out that new kangaroo exhibit. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just said kangaroo. Like she set me up to like say it myself. So, anyways, like, I'm like, okay, like this opportunity is done. So Michelle, I'm sure there's so many people that have gone to mediums before, psychics, mediums, whatever. And they say, I'm seeing this for you. Like, I think this is going to happen for you or whatever. Like they tell you this, and this, and then it like does not come to fruition. And then it makes us seem, my cousin was like, oh, I guess I'm not going to talk about this with you anymore because like, this is just false hopes. And it kind of really upset me because I was like, well, like I saw everything right. Like everything came to fruition except for the one thing that you had asked for.
Right.
So, so what do you like? Does this ever happen to you? Like what? And I'm sure this has happened to, listeners. Like what happened?
What happened? Well, there's a few things at play. So I'll kind of speak to the actual process itself first, and then kind of get into some detail, because when it comes to, and many people during sessions ask questions about jobs, about relationships, about the future, and psychic energy. Psychic is a word that we use to understand pulling in information that is not known by physical representation. It's premonition, which is slightly different than what we're talking about. But when somebody's, I'll give an example first before I explain the detail of it. So I have a friend, a very good friend, and she had come to me after a major life change. And that life change was a divorce and separation. And she had always really wanted to have a daughter. And the son that she had adopted, and it was just like, this boy just looks like her, like looks like it was such a divine, amazing connection with the son to begin with. And she had actually said, I'd always hoped that the birth mother for her adoptive son would have another child so that I could adopt, and that it was a girl, so I could adopt a sibling. Now, things like this, okay, like that's pretty out there and pretty specific.
Mhm.
So what is happening is she tapping into a desire of something that's already in her blueprint that's coming to her, or was
Mhm.
she creating it? Well, it's a bit of both, right?
Okay.
It's really not all one thing. So in regards to what we're speaking of, so yes, a baby is coming. I was like, wow. And now keep in mind, these things can be very hard to tell somebody, even though that sign is very clear,
Yeah.
because there is this kind of gray area with it. And I'm always very clear to tell somebody, yes, this is what's coming through. But at the same time, I may feel it's at this time, but is that exactly it, or can things change? Yes, they can. And I'll tell you why. But with this particular girl, the timing that came through was around December, and we were at the end of August at this time. And what actually ended up happening, so December was what was given to us. No baby came in December. No, nothing happened in December. So for her, that was like, maybe it's not going to happen. But, there's still hope there, but maybe it's not going to happen. I kept getting, it's still happening. It's still happening. There was a baby coming. Well, something did happen in December, but it was some changes that happened to allow for the next stages, which unfolded about 2 months
Mm.
after that. And she got a phone call that, yes, there is a baby. And that baby is her child's actual sibling. And that baby is
Wow.
coming, and she was asked if she would like to potentially adopt this
Yeah.
child. So right
Wow.
now she has adopted this child. And so she has this baby, right?
That's
Now that
wonderful.
was a pretty amazing circumstance, and she was working very hard, starting her spiritual journey and really working through a lot of things that she didn't fully understand. So in that circumstance, what happened? Why didn't it happen in December? Well, there's a lot of behind the scenes. We have free will. There's a lot of decisions that other people are making. There's a lot of moving parts that we can't see. And so when we energetically attach ourselves to the belief that that baby is coming into my life, I'm going to know and have this moment in December, we're putting a lot of weight on that happening, which what that does energetically is that, like I use this example all the time, it's like going from a 6-lane highway to a 2-lane highway or a one-way highway. When
Mm.
we put a lot of focus on being at that time, then just like how your spirit guide said, hey, it takes me time to get this sign, to do this. Like you just asked me for something very specific. It takes some time. Well, when it's something that has a lot of weight on it, emotional weight, a lot of importance for one reason or another, it becomes say a little heavier vibration, right? And then when we put specific to it, it's even heavier, because then the energy has to move through smaller pathways. They don't have as much flexibility. So that's why you hear all the time, be open, practice non-attachment, because the key of this is the belief of what is coming, but practicing not attaching to how and when. Because what gets us into trouble is we put all of these, and when this happens, then I can do this, and then this will happen, and then this will happen. So we start to build all of these expectations on this thing taking place. So in this situation, your signs and everything that you received are exactly right. You were getting all the signs. What we don't always know, and being a medium, working with energy, psychic, however we want to describe it, does not make us the be all and end all of knowing everything. That truly you, the individual, the person that is going through the experience, you will always know better for yourself. And the practice of trusting and working through that yourself is going to give you the most benefit, because a person could come to me over and over again and I can still say to them, yes, that energy is still there. Yes, it's still coming, but spirit will give signposts of times, and that may be a potential. Because remember, we're looking at energy based on where things are right now. So when you're looking at energy for somebody, it's where they are in their life, in that moment, from the decisions that have already been made, the reactions that have already been made. It's a projection of many timelines, because there are many
Okay.
different ways something could go. So what comes forward, and my intent is I ask to be shown what the most available timeline would be based on where things are right now. Now, sometimes we'll get guidance of, well, if you make this choice, this is more likely to happen. There are other times where you may connect with somebody and it's very clear it's about to happen. And those come in real strong. You know, and this comes from continuous practice of working with energy. But when you're being given all the signs, the first thing to know is spirit is not wrong at what they're giving you. We humanly may interpret it differently, meaning that we might be attaching, especially when it's somebody like, a friend, or where we already have a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right, with, and we really want for them to have that experience, or yes, this job is coming for you, but no, understanding the energy and how it works, that is more beneficial than attaching an outcome to, I will only be happy. Because here's the thing, many people attach even if it's a subconscious thing, attach themselves to, I'll be happy when. And this could go right back to what I was talking about earlier about the mediumship of, if I had the belief that I would only have people come to me because I had the right setup, and that
Oh,
is
mhm.
not a conscious thought. That's all these subconscious things of why we do what we do. If I do that,
Mhm.
well, then I would have blocked myself from
Mhm.
experiencing that abundance of having people come to me, because my belief system would be that I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough in where I'm
Until,
at
yeah.
until, right? So these all come back to belief systems. They all come back to, what do I believe? Why do I believe it? What do I feel this is giving from me? And what do I feel I do not have right now? Right? So there's a lot of deeper things within us as to why things play out. Now, with that circumstance as well, is that the timing of August, well, there are some big changes, and it is a big month, because when Spirit's giving us information, what is biggest to Spirit is the growth within us, because they're seeing what our soul has wanted to do in this life. And so
Mhm.
it is often a celebration that, say, being turned down for that job would create a change in that person. And that change would then allow them to, say, enter that next chapter of their life, which will bring something better. Okay, so we can understand that, but what about the person that, say, is not looking at any of this? And they're saying practically, why did I get denied? Why did this not happen? Well, that comes down to, again, really it's the belief. It's the belief that something is wrong. It's the belief that I've been denied something, so I've done something wrong, or I don't deserve this. When all along, it may have been that very circumstance that was able to shift or start to go deeper, that then would allow the opportunity that really is meant to come in,
Yeah.
because that denial is actually a door opener.
Yeah.
But the other part too, as readers, as sitting down for this for other people, we have to practice not taking on the responsibility of things not occurring in the way that we may have seen it. So it's important to me that, when I'm providing something for somebody, I always make sure that I explain to the best of my ability, that I explain energetically, like, what's taking place. Put the power back into the person that's asking, because that's where it comes from. Spirit
Okay.
is helping. They're not doing it for us. We are the ones here on earth doing. And so what we're
Yeah.
being given is signs and guidance, but the important part is those signs are there. Those signs are not wrong. It's telling you you are on the right track. When you
Okay. And
receive those signs. Mhm.
it's like the quantum probability, right? Like, so
Yes.
this is what I see in
Yes.
this. So does that mean that like we're more accurate with the closer things are, like time wise, like
Yes.
predicting
Yes.
closer events we're more accurate with, because less
Yes.
can like theoretically
Yes.
change in a timeline?
Right. Right.
Okay.
Now, there's I call it like wild card moments. There are things that can transpire. And a lot of times when something like that happens, there's like a divinity to it, like this has to happen. And we're not always
Yeah.
going to be told everything. There's a lot of times
Right.
where, spirit says nothing about something that's coming. And that all has to do with honoring the soul and what the soul is
Okay.
going to experience,
Yeah.
because that is part of, like, spirit will not, if the soul says, I want to experience what it feels like to be completely
Betrayal or
blindsided.
something.
Betrayal,
Yeah.
yes. They're not going to warn about that. But if it's something that's coming that can be avoided, or that information can help make a shift, then that will come through. So it's also the trust as readers that what comes through really is the best for that person. And as hard as an experience may be for somebody to walk through, we know that they will always be okay. We know that that trust of knowing I am okay no matter what happens, that's how I learn, that's how I raise my vibration. It's the key is not allowing the circumstances to tell us what's coming next, because that's not what does it. The circumstances do not tell us what our next steps are. In our mind, we may say, well, I've felt disappointment before, I've felt this before, I'm looking into something that I have no hope. Well, we have to experience not having hope to be able to come back to hope,
Yeah.
right? So all of these are, it's not really a black and white answer of why that happens. There are many different pieces to why this takes place, and quantum probabilities, it is a big part of it. Um, the other thing too is that we have different versions of Earth vibrationally. So we are
Oh, mind
moving
blown.
ourselves. Yeah. And that's that's a whole other topic that we can really get into. But there's so much to consciousness, right? And to our experience with consciousness, that we could go into so many topics with this, but the bottom line is with all of this is that you want to do the best you can for yourself where you're at. And what is the best belief for yourself with what the circumstances are? Because the circumstances are driven from what's in here. So when something happens, you go, oh, I didn't expect it to go that way. You have to remember that it's not because something is wrong. There is something to that. There is an experience. What if that experience, and I'm sure everybody can understand this, and to say, if I didn't have that experience, then I wouldn't have got through this. I wouldn't have been set up with this. I'll bring it right back to my diagnosis. Had I not had cancer, I wouldn't be sitting here today with you, Maren. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, right? So a very hard thing to accept. And it doesn't mean that in that moment I understood that, but I had to go through a process to understand that and to see that the opportunities I was really looking for would present themselves by going deeper within myself at that time. And that's really where all the power is. So we're really seeing what's being created from the inside expanded into the world.
It's just really hard as a human. Like, I get all that, but
Yeah.
sometimes I want to know the when and the how, you know?
Of course, of course. And sometimes we do
So,
get that. But this is the thing, through more and more experience, because we have to also remember that, we're toe dipped in two different worlds, and we're learning how to integrate them. We're learning how to be able to balance and to be able to ground this information in the physical world, to have more fulfillment in our life, to feel more joy, more peace, to have a life that we really want to have here. And it's not easy balancing a lot of these concepts and understandings and balancing them with, the day-to-day humanness of, but I just need the directions. I just need to know how,
how and when. I just need to know
yes,
it.
but
I believe in myself,
universal
but
law,
when? Yeah.
right? Go right back to universal law. When you ask, when you put it out there, it's there. It is there. You have to trust, and that this is the path of building that trust. Trust does not come by saying, I didn't get it and deflating. And
Right.
right, that is a cycle. That is a cycle. Is that an important cycle? If you need that in your experience, yes, it absolutely is. But you don't have to do that. Trust comes from continuously putting that vulnerability forward and saying, I know I'm okay if it doesn't happen, but I see the signs. I feel it. I trust myself. It's that process. All of this, our healing, is a continuous process in ourself and where we are connected naturally, that natural life
Yeah.
force that comes through us. It's trusting in that, because we can, that's a good point too. I'm just being reminded how many people will like blame the spirit guides. Like, you let
Oh,
me
yeah,
down.
yeah. Yeah.
You didn't, you let me down. Um, you didn't come through for me. I don't want to talk to you. I'm mad at you, you know, but it's not truly that way, because they can only support and guide, because they are also honoring a soul blueprint, as well as honoring our free will to do what we're
Yeah.
doing. But at the same time, when we don't understand, or we're going to be where our beliefs are at. So each one of us truly does do the best we can with where our consciousness is. And we may get to a point, because we always will as we grow, and look back and go, wow, if I had have known that then, or if I had have, then that would have never bothered me, or I wouldn't have had to go through that. But it's that understanding that I grow. And when I focus on continuously growing, I remind myself that I am doing the very best I can. And when it comes up that I could have done better, well, don't be afraid to go there and say, what is that? What could I have done differently? Because that's what this is all about. And vulnerability is what brings us deeper trust. being
Oh, I
vulnerable,
love this,
and
Michelle.
keep going through. Those are the two.
I love it. I feel like
That's a
my
big
whole
one.
life plan is like flashing before my eyes. Like
Yeah.
this is why I have this gift. This is everything because I have to learn all these lessons. And this is the best way to learn these
Yeah.
lessons. So
It really
I
is.
love it.
It really is. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your insight. It makes me feel a lot better. Definitely
Good.
more comfortable with the situation and
Mhm.
why things happened the way they happened. And
Mhm.
hopefully I'll be able to get back to him and, you know, give him
Yeah.
some comfort and it's within us. That's just where
Yes.
we always have to go,
And
right?
he'll get through it. And he'll get through it because he's at a point I feel that there's so much changing in him. And so,
Mhm.
it's not we do need to go within ourselves, even if that's denying somebody or denying a relationship or a connection. We have to go within ourselves to really figure things out, to process and
Mhm.
to experience. And that's such an important piece of it. We can't bypass that stuff. We have to do it.
Mhm.
So that's what's happening. And he will see that it will unfold. It's that piece of trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so
Okay.
much, Michelle.
You're welcome.
I hope you have a wonderful week, everyone. I
Yes.
hope you have a wonderful week, and we will
Yes.
see you
Same to
next
you.
week.
See you next week, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks you to
Bye.
all the new subscribers too. We love you.
Oh, yeah.